Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me. Can you hear me? All right, let's do it. So I'm going to start with a couple stories. I'm going to tell you why you should trust me, and then my goal is to leave you with a couple nuggets that you can go back and make your business better with. 2011 started a moving and storage company. When students went home for the summer, we would pick up their stuff, we would take it, and we'd store it in warehouses. We had box trucks. We had 6 full-time employees at our peak later on in the business. 300 plus part-time employees driving box trucks around major cities, picking up boxes and putting it in warehouses. Not the best business to be in. I'll tell you right now, it's pretty hard. But in 2012, we're 1 year in. Me and my business partner are sitting at a bar after our busy season, and we are complaining, we are whining, we are talking about everything that is going wrong and why none of it is our fault. Our employees were not good at their jobs. The economic environment was horrific for finding people who wanted to work hard. It was really hard to lease warehouse space. The box truck rental companies weren't reliable on when we could get box trucks. Our employees weren't listening to us. All kinds of things were going wrong. I was a complainer, guys. I was playing victim as a business owner. I was pointing my finger all around me at all of the other people and saying why it sucked and why it wasn't my fault. I was playing victim. I had a victim mentality as a business owner. I'm going to tell you in a little bit how that mindset shifted and how I began to take ownership over what I was doing. But I have a question for all of you. What is what you would consider to be one of the hardest businesses to run? I think it's a moving and storage company, but I'm talking about lowest odds of success. Do you hear about a specific industry that closes? Okay, restaurants. You hit me right in my wheelhouse, guys. I love this audience already. The hardest business to run, and I agree with you, the worst business in the world is a restaurant. I would never want to run a restaurant. I would never want to buy a restaurant. And all the people that cook great food and their friends are like, damn, you should open a restaurant. Almost all of them fail. But here we have Texas Roadhouse. Have you ever been in a Texas Roadhouse? I fucking love Texas Roadhouse. Guys, there's 82,000 employees at Texas Roadhouse. They have 630 locations. That's 130 full-time employees per restaurant, 130 in small towns all over America. They do $4 billion a year of revenue. $4 billion a year of revenue. That's $6.3 million per store. $1 million of that's profit per store, net profit. Margins get watered down a little bit, corporate. They make $693 million a year, guys, in the restaurant business. Okay? I look at that and I say, hey, here's a company where the owner is no longer, the guy who started this business, I don't know how many shares he owns, don't know if he's still around, don't know what he's doing. But the point here, you name a hard business, guys. You name a hard business. You tell me one that's tough. And I will point to it and I will show you somebody who has done it really, really, really well and they made a shitload of money. Okay? Honest. So what's your excuse? Okay, yeah, you're in a hard business. Yeah, maybe the TAM's not great. Yeah, maybe it's not scalable. Maybe there's a lot of moving parts. Maybe you're dealing with chefs in a kitchen that don't show up to work. Maybe you can point out at everything around you and blame it. But it can be done, and it can be done well by somebody. And what I realized pretty quickly there in 2012 when I was sitting there complaining, right across the street from us was a Texas Roadhouse, and that place was cranking out money in a way harder business than we were in. And I realized that it was my fault as a business owner. And that if I'm a good enough manager of people and I'm a good enough delegator, I can dominate and I can make a lot of money in this world. Period. No matter what business I'm in. So repeat after me, everybody. If I'm a good enough manager of people, the world is my oyster. Say it. If I'm a good enough manager of people, the world is my oyster. And what I mean by the world being my oyster is I can get fucking rich and get a yacht or whatever I want to do. So why should you listen to me? I grew that moving and storage business. We sold it for $1.75 million in 2020. I used that cash to build a self-storage facility from the ground up in 2015. Opened it in 2017. We built it for $2.9 million all in after we bought the building across the street. It's worth $11 million today. I own all of it with my business partner. And it changed our life. One deal. One self-storage deal, put millions of dollars in the bank. And frankly, we could have just lived on that one deal for our entire lives, made a couple $100,000 a year, and never worked again. From one deal we did as 25-year-olds. Today I have 10 companies, all with partners. My equity ranges from 12.75% to 80%. In these companies, we have 300 plus employees, and I have 3 businesses in my portfolio that are valued north of $10 million. 2 of those, I'm 45% higher ownership. These companies, my portfolio businesses, and guys, I don't like bragging on myself, but everybody who comes up here, you're like, why the fuck should I listen to this guy? So I got to tell you. They'll do over $50 million of revenue in 2023. 12 million of it will be cash flow. About 3 million of it annually is coming to me. So there's people that are way richer than me. There's people that are doing bigger stuff than me. My goal is to give you guys a couple takeaways that you can take back to your companies and go to work. There's my portfolio of businesses that we started and grown. So why is delegation so hard? Telling other people what to do. And this is a great list of speakers. Right after me, you're going to hear about personal branding. Then you're going to hear Hunter talk about delegation and personal branding and building teams. But what I realized about delegation is that nobody ever teaches you how to delegate. Go to school, and the English teacher, no English teacher in the world is going to say, hey, let's write a 10-page paper, and I want you to find somebody else in this class to write your paper for you. I ran track and field in college. I was a D1 athlete. Not once did I show up to practice and the coach say, Nick, we got to run 4 400s today. I want you to find some freshman to do that work for you. I want you to head home. I wish they would have. But we're never taught to delegate, guys. We're never taught to delegate, and delegation is a muscle. You got to practice it. So we get out in this world, we graduate college, we go out in the workforce, and we're basically unemployable because we've been taught a bunch of stuff that's not really that applicable. We don't know how to manage people. And the fact in this world, there's one cold, hard fact in this world, is that if you're really good at your job, you can make great money, but if you can make other people really good at their jobs, you can get rich. And I think that's so true. So that's why I'm going to talk about delegation. How many times have you heard a talking head business legend sit in front of a mic, they're getting interviewed, they're in a chair just like this, and they're trying to be humble. I don't really blame them. They're trying to be humble, but they get asked like, hey, Elon, what's your key to success? What has made you so successful? The answer is always the same. I hate it so much. The key to success is hiring great people. You got to surround yourself with unbelievable people. They all say it, and it makes me really, really mad. So what is the perfect employee? Who are these great people that Elon Musk hires, that Steve Jobs hires? They work hard. They're never late. They go above and beyond. They care about my business like I do. They solve problems amazingly. They thrive in situations of chaos. I don't need to tell them what to do. They can read my mind as a business owner. I can just think about things and they'll know what they need to do. That's how I used to treat my employees in 2012, and that's why they all sucked. Really, I sucked, guys. And they do great work, even when I fail to communicate effectively to them. This is the perfect employee. So I read Elon Musk's book in 2012, and I said, damn, I got to find some of these perfect employees, these great employees. Every interview I watch with all these billionaires, all they talk about is these great employees. So I went out and tried to find great employees to drive box trucks. Just like Nolan, you're going to hear from in a little while, tries to find great employees to drive lawnmowers and run weed eaters. Maybe you're trying to find great employees to sit in an office and inject people's skin all day, right? The stuff that we're doing is not rocket science. I don't believe in change the world culture. I hate the venture capital-backed stuff because all the rich people I know, they did really common things. They just did them uncommonly well. So I was looking for this. This is what I was looking for. I was looking for unicorns. They didn't exist. There was no employee that would care about my business like I cared about my business. There was no employee that could read my mind. There was no employee that would stay late. There was no employee that would do any of these things. If I worked my people too hard, or if I was a jerk to one of my employees, they said, hey, fuck you, Nick, I'm gone. I'm going to go do something else. So you have 2 options. You can find world-class people to join your company. That's what the billionaires will all tell you to do. I don't think that's very approachable. I realized really quick that I wasn't going to be able to find those people. Or you can do what all the people do who've gotten rich doing boring things, and you can build a company where normal people can thrive. That was a mindset shift for me in 2012. Hey, I'm placing a job post on Craigslist. Back then we hired on Craigslist. And I was hoping that unicorns would walk in the door, begging to work for me. It's just not true. The actual key to success is building a business where normal people can thrive. So stop looking for unicorns and take some ownership over your situation. So 2012 year was the most stressful year of my business. We did about $600,000 of revenue. It was our second year. I was stressed out. I was working 90 hours a week. I slept in a warehouse. I had a situation so bad with chafing because I hadn't showered in 4 days. I was driving a box truck all day. I was loading in the warehouse all night. I was doing customer service from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. before doing it all over again for a week straight. I lost 20 pounds, and I had a mental breakdown on the side of the road in 2012. 2013, we took some ownership over this situation and realized it wasn't our employees' fault. It wasn't the supplier's fault. It wasn't the vendor's fault. It wasn't the economy's fault. It was my fault as a business owner. It's me. Everything finally my partner, my business partner, who I am still business partners with today, he looked at me and said, Nick, we got to stop complaining. It's not getting us anywhere. We got to take some ownership over this. He's like, Nick, next time I complain, tell me I'm an idiot. Tell me to shut up and tell me that it's my fault. So me and Dan, my business partner, made this thing where every time one of us would complain, we'd say, hey, it's your fault. Hey, one of my employees ran a box truck. Have you ever been to Boston? You guys ever been to Boston? There's this road called Sturo Drive. Box trucks are not allowed on Sturo Drive because the overpass is about this high. One of our employees, yeah, sure enough, 2013, we had barely any money. It was our truck too. Cruising down Sturo Drive. Oh man, we're doing great today. Whoosh, the whole top of the truck gets cut off. 2 hours later, truck driver put diesel fuel in a gasoline engine. And another guy who we were working way too hard, we were doing way too much, he was working around the clock for 4 or 5 days. He's like, fuck these guys, I'm gone. Put the vehicle in park over in Brighton and left the vehicle there. That was our 2012. 2013, we simplified the job so that these employees that we were hiring didn't need to be good at 30 things. They needed to be good at 5. We took customer service off their plate. We took scheduling off their plate. Instead of making invoices on the spot, we had them take pictures of stuff. We just made some things. We did some things to make the thing more efficient. It got a lot better. And a lot of people say, Nick, when I structured this, when I made the business simpler for the people that were in it, how am I doing, guys? Am I doing all right? Okay. What do employees want in a job? And again, when you're listening to media, when you're on social media, when you're reading books about people, what do employees want in a job? They want autonomy. They want to be their own boss. They want to solve problems. They want a dynamic, exciting, unpredictable environment. They want minimal guidance. They don't want a micromanager. They want to build all their own schedules. They want an environment of excitement. That's all bullshit. If they wanted those things, they'd be an entrepreneur. They would go start their own company if they wanted an unpredictable paycheck, if they wanted to be cut in on profits, if they wanted to solve problems all day, they'd go start their own company. You realize really quick that employees don't want any of that. They want to be told what to do, they want to show up, they want to succeed, and they want to turn off their computer at 5 o'clock and go home and watch Netflix. That's what the average person wants to do. We're in this room because we're built a little bit different, but in 2012, I thought everybody's like me. They're just going to solve problems. They're going to be great at doing a lot of things like I am. I was really, really, really wrong. Employees are not like entrepreneurs. They don't want to solve problems. Turns out when there's problems and you have a boss that you can pass those problems to, life is pretty good. They want to go home at 5 p.m. and enjoy their lives, basically. They want a predictable way to win. They want to succeed. They want to be in an environment of success. They want to be good at their jobs. They want to feel like they're adding value to the company. And then they want to go home. So what I realized also pretty quickly as I was trying to build these companies and delegate, and something that you should learn too, is that there's a workforce, and let's just say there's 100% of people in a workforce. Let's just say that this is the workforce. We have 10% over here. They're the real losers. They're looking for a job or they're unemployed. We have the 10% over here, and they're in career nirvana. It's perfect. A better opportunity could come and they would say no because they're really happy with how things are going. But 80% of the workers right here in the middle, they're doing something, they're working a job, but they're somewhere between. Like if a better job came, they'd probably take it. And I realized really quickly that all the best hires I've ever made were in that 80%. They're not going to come apply for my jobs. They've already got jobs. They've already got a boss that really likes them and doesn't want to lose them because they're good. And so what do I have to do? I got to go hunt them down and find them. So instead of just posting a job and hoping great employees would come in, I turned into a lion on a rock. And I was a hunter. I used to be a fisherman. I was fishing for people to come to work for me. I'd throw out some bait, Craigslist job post, and I would hope those unicorns would just bite on that line and come work for my company. Realized pretty quickly that the best employees aren't looking around for jobs. You got to go find them. They're working for somebody. They have a boss they like. They have a boss that really likes and needs them. So you got to go hunt them down. I'm going to give you a tactical way to hire people. Everybody talks about building amazing culture, having ping pong tables and kegs of beer in your office and stuff like that. That's not realistic for me. I don't know what situation you guys are in. I keep business cards in my back pocket all the time. I was in Walmart. It was about 8 p.m. I was in Ithaca, New York. And I saw this kid at Walmart, 25 years old, clean cut. He was running to the parking lot with a vest on, with a Walmart vest. He was running. Went around, got all the carts, got about 6 or 7 carts, and he sprinted with the carts. And on his way by, there was a Walmart sack on the ground, and he scooped it up and shoved it in his back pocket, and he was hustling. I was like, I've never seen this before. Every employee that I've ever seen working at Walmart is kind of, they don't want to be there. They're getting paid $12 an hour. They're not getting paid by the cart. Oh shit, the slower I walk, the longer I get to work, the less work I have to do. This kid cared. He cared about the job, which I'd never seen about anybody at Walmart. Walked up to him and I was like, hey, his name was Josh. I was like, Josh, why are you going so fast? He goes, well, the person I'm working with didn't show up today, and we only got about 6 carts up front, and there's people coming in. There's always a little bit of a rush about 8 or 9 o'clock because people come in after they get their kids to bed and chop, and we don't have any carts. And I'm like, okay, this kid thinks different. Pulled out the card, pulled out the business card. Hey, Josh, I'm Nick. I knew he made $12 an hour. I pay attention to what people make in different industries. I said, I don't know if you know somebody. You might have any friends that kind of work like you. It seems like you're a really good worker. I run a moving and storage company. We pay $20 an hour. If you know anybody who was looking for a job, have them give me a call or shoot me an email. 4 hours later, my phone rings. It's not Josh's friend. It's him. He called me, went to work for me for the next month, and he was one of the best hires that we ever had. Worked in Ithaca, traveled into D.C., making $25 an hour. I wish I could say that he still worked for me today, but I lost him. But that's the stuff you got to do. You're at a bar and you see somebody who just cares. They're attentive. They can read the room. They're looking around. They're competent. Boom, pull out the business card, hand it to them. I don't like to pick on the small businesses, pick on Walmart, pick on Target, pick on the big guys. When you're interviewing somebody, this is a tactical approach for a little bit higher end, higher end employees, somebody you're going to manage people. Let's say I'm interviewing somebody and I'm like, hey, do you want to come to work for me? What do you want in a job? Generally, you're just asking a bunch of questions about them. What I like to do is kind of figure out what their goals are and figure out if my business can deliver on those goals. What I call is the motivational interview. I'll say, hey, let's pretend that 10 years, 5 years from now, you're still at my company. And this is an interview. They're just seeing if they want to work for me. Let's say 5 years from now, you still work for me, and you walk in and we sit in this very room, and things are going freaking awesome. I ask you how you're doing, and you say things are great. I'm having the most fun I've ever had in my career. I'm healthy. My family's amazing. And I love my job. I love working at this company. Tell me what you're doing. We're pretending. What are you doing? How big's the team you're managing? How much money are you making? How much are you working? What kind of problems are you solving? And you just shut up and let that person talk. And what you'll learn really quickly is what that person wants in a job. What are their motivations? And 2 things will happen. Number 1, you'll figure out if you can actually deliver that at a company. And number 2, you'll figure out if the person wants and needs the same things that you can actually deliver. So I've actually learned, when I do this interview technique, I've learned really quickly when it's not a good fit. If I had somebody come in to drive a box truck, and I just need somebody to drive a box truck, and I've asked them this question, they'll say, I want to run this company. Well, I don't need that. I need somebody to, drive this truck. It's kind of sweaty, actually. You're not going to be leading anything. So you can disqualify people that way, too. Should I give my employees equity or a profit share? No. I don't know. I mean, I could skip the whole slide here. The answer is no. I don't know if this is going to go on YouTube. I got married. I had six men who stood up next to me. I'm a huge proponent of hiring friends and family and people that I know because I get to look into their brain and I can trust them. 4 or 5 weeks after my wedding, the guy who stood up next to me as one of the best men in my wedding was in my arms crying because I had just let him go from my company. Not only that, I had to buy him out because he had equity. Total nightmare for all parties involved. I've done it probably 3 or 4 times in my life. It's never worked. And I've seen my friends do it another 15 or 20 times. Maybe twice or 3 times it's worked. The rest of the time, it's a total nightmare. And again, what motivates an employee, guys? What motivates an employee is predictable cash in their bank account. They want to win daily with their coworkers and their customers, and they want respect and praise in the workforce. You think it's aligning incentives? It's really just creating a lot of headache for you. And look, this is just my opinion. There's many people who've done this, and they've done it really well. I don't give equity to somebody who's coming on after a business has been founded. I'm never going to do it again. Now, when it comes to delegation, I think there's 2 levels of delegation, and you can get really rich doing just level 1, which is the easy level of delegation. It's the tasks. You're going to tell somebody what to do. Hey, get on this lawnmower and drive it. Get in this box truck and drive it. And then there's the second level of delegation, which is decisions. I need somebody else to be able to make decisions. That's the hard level. And I'll tell you, you can build a business to several $1 million a year where every decision comes to you. Nobody else in your company makes any decisions. It's not really a great way to live, but I've seen people make generational wealth. They've made millions of dollars by only delegating tasks and never once delegating the actual decision making. I got this monkey on the back thing that I talk about with decisions. Some of you might have heard about it or read about it. Every time an employee comes to me in my business with a decision to make or a problem, they've got a monkey on their back. It's a problem. They got to solve it. Me, before I knew what I was doing, I would say, hey, okay, give me that problem and get out of here. I'm going to solve it. The monkey would jump off of their back and get on my desk. Now it was my problem. Sure enough, right when that employee left, another employee came in with another monkey on their back. Hey, I got a problem. I got a decision to make. What do I do? I'd say, oh yeah, I'll handle it. Get out of here. At the end of the day, this is what my office looked like. I had a bunch of problems, and I couldn't stop work until 10 or 11 o'clock at night because I was solving all of my employees' problems. Turns out that decision-making and problem-solving is a muscle, and if you tell all your employees, get out of my way, I'll solve it, it's the easy way. It definitely is quicker. I can do the job better. I can solve this problem quicker. It definitely is more work to teach that employee how to solve the problem and what to do about their monkey. But in the long run, having employees that can solve their own problems is the only way that you can actually delegate and step out of a business. And decision-making, like problem-solving, decision-making, it's a muscle. And I'm really into parenting. I have 3 young kids. I'm kind of all bark, no bite, because none of my kids are old enough to get in any trouble at this point, so take all this advice with a grain of salt. But I think a lot of kids today are in a bubble, meaning their parents make every single decision for them. And I also compare parenting to running a company because it's really awesome. I actually love hiring teachers because it turns out if you can manage 34-year-olds, you have no problem managing 34-year-olds. So I think kids are in a bubble. I went to college at Cornell in Ithaca, New York. It's an Ivy League school. On my floor, there were kids with tons of wealth. Their parents were business owners. Their parents practically took the SATs for them to get them into Cornell. Turns out these kids had never actually made a decision for themselves their entire lives. We were going to a party in College Town in Ithaca, and they'd be calling their parents saying, it's about 35 degrees out. What's the bus schedule, Mom? Should I take a bus? Should I take a taxi? Or should I walk? It's like, holy shit, these kids don't know how to make any decision. A couple semesters later, they had failed out of college. Total life was in shambles because they were never taught to make a decision. So I like to give my 5-year-old a lot of what I call low-risk decisions to make so that he can practice. And if they go poorly, he cries for a couple minutes. It's a very low-risk decision, and he forgets about it. I don't want him to be 18, never having made a decision before. It's 2 in the morning, and he makes a really bad decision that ruins his life. Employees are the same way. If you don't teach your employees to make very low-risk decisions, they'll never be able to make the high-risk, important decisions. And decision-making is a muscle. Okay? I really like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I want to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I want to build muscle like Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I sat on my computer. I made a full-on workout spreadsheet. I watched hours and hours and hours of Arnold Schwarzenegger videos, read a biology book about muscle. I ordered a bunch of muscle protein. 3 weeks later, I had no muscle. I didn't have any muscle. I couldn't figure out why. Turns out, you got to go to the freaking gym and lift the weight. Delegation is the same way, and decisions are the same way. People read about decision making, they read about delegation. They go to conferences like this, they listen to people like me. They watch YouTube videos, they listen to podcasts, they read books. They do all this stuff to become better leaders, better decision makers, better delegators. But they don't pick up the damn weight. They never actually hired anybody and told them what to do. So I feel the same way. Decisions, all this stuff, you get it. Who, not how. Every decision, everything that needs done in my company now, it's natural for me when a problem comes or something needs done, I think of how can I do this? How can I learn how to do this? The mindset shift is who can I get to do this? All of you have a problem in your company right now, and you're thinking, ooh, how can I do this? And once you start operating business at a high level, that mindset shifts, and it's who can I get to do this? It's not how will I do this. It's who else can I get to do this? So now, if I have a job in my company, I'm pissed about it, and I'm recruiting because I don't like having a job in my company. My job is to run the company. So my employees come to me all the time. They're like, Nick, we got this, that, and the other to do. Can you help me with this? I'm like, oh, I don't work here. But look, with that, I got to have a disclaimer. Many of you guys don't own businesses yet, or you own small businesses, and you got to understand that this is a process. You can't skip ahead and be this visionary. I think this addiction to becoming a visionary is very, very dangerous for entrepreneurs because nobody wants to roll up their sleeves and do the damn work. It's very easy to go to these conferences like, oh, I'm thinking bigger now. I'm going to come back home and I'm going to be decision making. I'm going to delegate everything. If I have a job, I'm pissed. When you got 4 people at your company, and before you know it, you got too many chiefs and not enough Indians. I'm going to get canceled again. So get your hands dirty and then delegate like a madman when the cash flow gets heavy, okay? When you start making some freaking money, then you start delegating. Until you're making the freaking money, get your hands dirty and do the work. So a couple tactical things, how to scale a business. Raise your damn prices, number 1. Number 2, spend half your time selling and then half your time executing until you're about 200 grand of revenue. And these are all very loose numbers, guys. Spend half your time selling, 1/4 of your time executing, and 1/4 of your time hiring and training until you get to about 2 million of revenue. And then to 5 million in revenue, spend half your time selling, half your time recruiting. And then the fun starts beyond 5 million in revenue, spend 100% of your time recruiting, hiring, training, and making key decisions, all right? How many of you all are doing more than 5 million a year in revenue right now? Raise your hands. Any of your businesses doing more than 5 million a year in revenue? Okay, a handful. Everybody else? You're going to need to do some executing. You're going to need to do some selling. Okay, guys? Sales. This is not a pitch on sales. Raise your hand if you just don't like sales. It's a little bit uncomfortable. You would consider I hate sales, actually. Maybe I actually freaking hate sales. Okay, so we got a couple people. I'm going to tell those people that they need to go get a job. There you go. I was at a coffee shop in Ithaca. Again, I went to school there. I was talking to a really wealthy person. And I remember it vividly. I'm like, I'm going to start a company. I'm an entrepreneur now. I got to start talking to really, seasoned people. So I found this guy who built a pretty big HVAC company, set him down, and I said, I just hate sales. I'm not going to do sales. And he's like, well, how are you going to sell contracts? How are you going to do this or that? I'm like, oh, I'm going to hire the sales team. And he told me just what I told you. He's like, hey, if you don't like sales, you need to get a freaking job. And I'm so glad that very moment he was brutally honest with me, because if you're an entrepreneur, 99% of your job is sales. You're not just selling customers, you're selling your employees on joining your company. You're selling your investors on investing with you. You're selling your partners on trusting you. You're literally selling your vendors on selling to you, guys. You're selling yourself and your ideas all the time. And then you go home and you got to sell your 4-year-old on getting in the car. You're selling all the time. Your life is sales. Embrace sales. And right now, if you just said you don't like sales, put a thing on your mirror that says, I love sales, and look at yourself in the face and say, you are a fucking badass salesperson every morning when you brush your teeth. Because it'll work, and you go from hating sales, like I used to hate sales, to now I consider myself a very good salesman. I'm selling people on my vision. I'm selling people when I'm recruiting companies, recruiting to get people to join my companies. All right, now I'm going to talk about how to piss off your best employees. Do one of these 2 things, and if you want to lose all your best employees, do both of them at the same time. number one, make decisions extremely slowly and don't change anything. And when they come to you and they complain, and your employees will walk in your office and maybe you got a 10Xer, these employees that are really awesome, you know who I'm talking about, they just think like you, they're really good, they're driven. When they come in your office with ideas, talk a really big talk to them and then just do nothing. And number two, surround all of those A players, those 10Xers, surround them with C players so that they have to pick up the slack for everybody else. And then they're just going to be in heaven. Those A players are going to be, they're going to just love working for you. No, seriously though, you all have friends in corporate America. You've all been in corporate America. What do people in corporate America complain about? They complain about having to work with dumbasses, and they complain about nothing changing inside their company. That's all they complain about. That's why they hate their job. So if you can give people those two things, you can get some really great people, and you can do well. Now look, your organization will fall to the level of competence that you tolerate. I'm going to say that again. The performance of your organization will fall to the level of competence that you tolerate. If you tolerate C players, and look, there's a time and a place for B players. I think B players are very important. If you tolerate C players and you let them hang around, your company, in a couple years, a couple months, it will become a C-level organization. I'm going to say that again. If you tolerate C players and you let them hang around, basically you don't have the guts to get rid of them, your entire company will become a C-level organization. I showed a picture of a lion earlier. I wasn't going to bring this up because it's a little bit grotesque, but a lion pride will actually kill. It'll murder the weak people in the pride. As a business owner, and leadership is really hard, guys. I'll tell you that. Leadership's really hard. I've fired enough people. It's never fun. It always sucks. I'm not heartless. But sacrificing the weakest link in your company is very, very often necessary to do what's best for everybody else. Okay? And all of you are thinking, if you have companies, you might be thinking of, I'm going to ask you a question just so you actually think of it. Who's somebody at your company that you're just not sure about? You spend a lot of time trying to get them better. They've made some mistakes. And you always say, oh, I think next time they're going to do a little bit better. I think I can help them get a little bit better. I think they'll improve. I'm going to keep working with them. I'm going to give them another chance. Fire that person now. The best time to fire that person was a couple months ago. The second best time to fire that person is right now. Leave this room, call them up, and tell them they're done. When should I fire somebody? I got a little ahead of myself. The second it comes to your head that somebody might not be a good fit at your company, they need to be gone. The person you're thinking about right now needs to go. And look, I'm not trying to say that people don't change. I've seen people change. I've seen people improve. I've seen people stop being a pain in the ass. But that's maybe 20% of the time that they actually change. And in business, I feel like I'm playing poker. I'm playing the odds every day. And I like to play when the odds are in my favor. I spend enough time, I've wasted enough time trying to change people to know that most people don't change, and I don't like those odds. So therefore, I'm not in the business of trying to change people. Repeat after me again. I'm not in the business of trying to change people. I won't make you repeat because we're running low on time. An easy competitive advantage for me, and I think if you're worried about delegation, it is really uncomfortable if you don't have any money or you're making 50, 100 grand a year. It's really uncomfortable to hire somebody who you consider talented, especially when you got to pay them 50, 100 grand a year. I've hired 100 plus employees in Colombia and the Philippines, and they make under $5 an hour, $4.75 an hour. I'm not here to sell anything that I do, but I'm a partner in supportshepherd.com that recruits those companies. You can go out and recruit these people as well on many different things. But this is a very low-risk way to flex that delegation muscle, guys. The delegation muscle of hiring somebody, telling them what to do, you can do it in a very low-risk way. And now of my 300-plus employees, over 200 of them are offshore in the Philippines or Colombia. We have less than 100 Americans across all of my companies. That's all I got. I don't know. Should I hire a salesperson? I have a really a controversial take here, in that if a small business is doing less than $5 million a year revenue and the owner comes and tells me that they're going to hire a salesperson to try to sell new business, it's going to fail 95% of the time. That's just the truth. The owner needs to be the salesperson until, again, you got so much work coming in the door that you can't deliver on that work. So I don't think hiring an outside salesperson is a good idea.
Why is the $5 million mark?
I just like to take strong stances with statistics that I've totally made up. Yeah, this is everything in this entire document is just true statistics that I made up. So take that with a grain of salt. All this right here, this is all made up. Okay, look, there's nuance in all of this stuff. Everybody acts like business is a book that there's one way to win. And I look at running a business, especially a high-level business, is where you have 1,000 decisions to make every year. And those decisions, they're all forks in the road. And many of these times, both forks will win. Like, both forks will take you to success. And some decisions, when you're in a tough spot, some decisions, both forks will take you to failure. But there's no one way to win. I'm just a guy. There's people in this room that are way smarter than me. And people ask me, like, Nick, who do you take advice from? Who do you get advice from? I get advice from everybody, and I just throw out 95% of it. Treat this presentation that way too. A lot of this stuff won't apply to you. Throw it out. If it's I call it a bullshit meter. If it's flipping your bullshit meter, chuck it.
Nick, you down to do a couple questions?
Just yell it out.
Answers?
Just yell it out.
Okay, that's one way.
Never mind. We can't hear him at all.
Oh, well. Surprise, surprise. Where's my question? Where's my question? Great.
Sorry, I can't yell over everybody's laughter here. So you talked about the monkeys on your back and being able to, help with the delegation, making sure that people are taking care of their own problems instead of it being on your plate, right? And then you've also got this slide here about like when you're moving up to next level as far as like spending your time in different spots. Now, when you've got somebody else that you're managing and they need to be firing somebody, like how are you letting them fail or make those kind of mistakes, but yet still helping them to grow to become the person that executes or fires when they need to, or make any of those kind of decisions that way?
So when these people are coming to you with their monkeys, and you're making them solve their own problems, and examples of this in the storage businesses, guy walks in my office or calls me up and says, hey, Nick, we got a big problem out of one of our facilities. Somebody rented a unit. They're at the unit right now, and it's rented to somebody else. There's already a lock on it. What do I do, Nick? What do I do? Okay, I'm not going to take their monkey, so I'm going to say, hey, what would you do? What's our goal here? What's our goal? Nick, to rent more storage units and make more money for our investors and make more money for you so you can buy fancier shit. And that's not what they'd say, but that's the goal. So I'd say, okay, what would you do? What would you do? And two things happen here. Number one, they get practice, critical thinking and decision making. Number two, you get a look into their mind. You get a look into their mind. You get to start to see how they think about problems and see if they're competent enough to be making the decisions. And I got another cold, hard fact here. 80% of the time, they're going to let you down. 80% of the time, they're not going to be able to make a good decision. 20% of the time, they will. And as they come to you, they're bringing you monkeys every single day. You're getting a look into their mind, they're getting practice. You're going to look into their mind, they're getting practice. You get a look into their mind, they're getting practice. And you say, oh, this person sucks. Oh, this person's actually thinking about things the right way. They're really good. So let's give them a little bit more responsibility, and let's have some monkeys going to them. Let's have some people going to them. I pretty strongly believe, maybe call me, this might sound actually really bad, I think that 80% of people in this country are totally incompetent. Like that sounds really bad, really bad. 80% of people will let you down in all areas of life. They have horrible habits. They have horrible habits. They're broke. They don't have good relationships. They leave a wake of destruction in their lives. They fuck up every decision that you ask them to make in a company. They cost you money. When you spot that, I'm not saying you need to let them go. There's repeatable. Remember, there's two levels of delegation. There's the tasks and there's the decisions. These people are not cut out for decisions, and that's okay. A lot of people are not cut out for decisions. That's why we're all at a competitive advantage, because everybody here is perfectly competent, 100% hit rate, and that's why we're entrepreneurs. And you asked, the second part of your question was, like how fire. If you have to fire somebody, I don't love it, but I step in and fire all the time for my managers because it looks like I'm falling on the sword. I hate delegating that task because it's really freaking hard. But yes, there are people now at my company who fire people on their teams, and they get paid well to do that job.
Hi, I'm Kate. Nice to meet you. Thank you. Can you comment, or can you give me a little bit more understanding behind why you wouldn't do a profit share, particularly for an employee that's maybe a manager? I'm not talking about for somebody low level, but for somebody who is making those decisions. Like the equity thing makes total sense to me, but
we've done phantom equity. So when we sold our moving and storage company for $1.75 million, we had a little piece of paper that we signed with one of our core competent managers that said, if we ever sell our company, you get 5% of this, 5% of the proceeds. It's phantom equity, just one little sheet. And we gave him 10% because he was so good and it was so awesome. And it made him $175,000. He was able to put a down payment on a house and pay for a wedding. It was a really amazing thing to do. I love that stuff. I love that kind of motivation. If you have a CEO of a company where you're going to buy a business and this person is literally in charge of making sure enough money is in your pocket at the end of the year, then yes, you can motivate them on profit. The people at the high levels absolutely do motivate people on profit. It seemed like small businesses, it's a disaster. It's your job to watch profit. It's other people's job to increase revenue, if that's a metric. So maybe you incentivize them on revenue. I love revenue sharing. There's no bookkeeping. There's no, oh my God, we got to figure out the profit at the end of the quarter. But Nick, what about your Denali payment that's on the books here? Is that a real necessary expense? No, you don't have that, just the complexity of running a small business and actually figuring out profit to compensate these folks. So yes, and look, take that with a grain of salt too. There are times and places where profit sharing is wise. 99% of the time though, don't do it and just pay people what they want, which is a great check every 2 weeks that they can count on.
Nice, I like that. I see a question over here. I'm coming over.
Hi, you said selling can be taught. I was wondering what your journey was learning to sell, how you learned.
Yeah, so sales, it's a funny thing about sales is that it's a series of plays. Sales is a series of plays. Imagine an offensive coordinator sitting in the booth watching the Georgia Bulldogs just dominate. I live in Athens. And he's running a series of plays that he knows has worked because he's ran those plays before and they have worked. He's ran those series of plays and he knows how they work. Sales is the exact same way. Sales, you have a series of plays, you have a series of things you can say, you have a series of reactions, and you have the uncomfortable nature that many people hate about sales of just asking somebody to pay you money. It's asking somebody for money is uncomfortable and hard, and most people aren't even willing to do that. 80% of people aren't even willing to do that. So if you're willing to ask for money and you don't care about rejection, you're way ahead of everybody else. But when it comes to sales, I like using Avoma or Firefly or one of these meeting recordings, and the deals you close, analyze those deals. Re-listen to the conversations. Figure out what you said and what it worked, and maybe even get a sales coach that can get in the meetings with you and figure out, hey, when you said this, the last 3 meetings in a row, the reaction was not great. So hey, why don't you stop fucking saying that? It's a series of plays. So everybody watches, all the athletic teams, all the pro teams, they watch tons of game tape. They literally spend the off seasons watching game tape. They spend all week watching game tape. But people in sales roles never analyze what they've done. So that's a tactical takeaway of like how to improve sales.
Great,
But-
one question over here.
Hi, I was wondering if you could share a little bit about how you go about managing your partnerships. So how you go about vetting partners that you're looking to go into business with,
Yep.
and then what you do to set up those partnerships. So if it does go south, then you know you can get out, or
Yep.
how you manage that.
My goal when I'm about to go in a partnership with somebody is right before we sign on the dotted line to be in business together, I try to scare the shit out of them. Okay? I think life is a series of expectations, okay? I'm setting expectations with my kids. I'm setting expectations with my wife. I'm setting expectations with my employees. I'm setting expectations with my customers. And when those expectations are not met, I have pissed off people and I'm stressed out, okay? Stress, in my opinion, stress in general, any stress in life is unmet expectations because you told somebody you could do something that maybe you're not going to be able to do. So I'm going to work to get somebody excited about a business opportunity. I'm going to say this job is awesome if I'm trying to get somebody employed, or if I'm trying to get a partner. Yeah, we're going to make millions of dollars. Well, right before the rubber hits the road, I'm going to say, hey, what would you do if this is a 4-year grind before we make money? What would you do if we're going out and trying to sell this stuff, and you have to spend 30 days on the road at trade shows? Hey, what would you do if instead of making $5 million a year in profit, we're making 300 grand 3 years from now. I'm tapering expectations, right? It's a way of selling where, hey, I'm going to lower the expectations so that I can A, figure out if these people are legitimate and they actually want to do the work and they're not just excited right now, and B, I'm not as stressed out if this thing doesn't work. So.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nick. Are you going to hang out for the rest of the day? You'll be around?
Yeah.
Nick will be here. Come see him afterwards for questions. You guys, can we give Nick a big round of applause? Awesome.